Thank you very much, Program Director. Ibingelele umndeni waManyathi, umndeni wakaHlongwane, Bishop Belden, distinguished speakers, distinguished visitors and friends, ladies and gentlemen. I've been asked to do a eulogy to Mr. Mpika Manyathi, our dearly departed brother, friend, and counselor. I stand devastated by the sudden loss of our dear brother Mpika, gone too soon, taken from us at a time when he should be enjoying the fruits of his toil. We don't mourn like people with no hope. However, we have been torn to shreds by the departure of a gallant son of the soil. A humble man lies in state and kisses the clouds as he looks down at us with love and admiration. Our brother Mpika epitomized to me a man who loved his family without reservation. Our brother Mpika was a loyal brother who was not only dependable but also a protector of those who were dear to him. Our brother Mpika was a community builder who strengthened churches and people. Our brother Mpika was a man who gave willingly of what he worked hard for. Our brother Mpika was a leader who sacrificed his happiness so that the greater good would permeate to society, and above all, our brother Mpika was an anointed man who lived with purpose and intent. Our brother Mpika was a brother whose word you could rely on. Absolutely. A man of impeccable integrity, a rock so dependable you knew he would keep every promise he made. When Mpika's condition deteriorated about 10 days before his actual passing, we always remained hopeful that he would recover. Because he had similar experiences in early March this year, where a stubborn bacterial viral load refused to respond to a cocktail of antibiotics that very dedicated and committed microbiologists were administering to him. At that time, he dramatically responded enough for him to be ready to receive a new heart. When he eventually received a new heart, our God of all seasons not only showed up, but he also showed off. That he is a God he's the only one whose timing is impeccable. I shall forever hold dear the experiences of that time, because where there had been doubt if God really existed, it was replaced by the miraculous experience of God's intervention on human life. Mpika then became a living testimony of God's grace, of God's love, and of God's glory. Intertwined with that moment, I foresaw a time of thanksgiving when we would thank God for Mpika's restoration. I wanted to be able to publicly thank his dear wife, Zanele, for being a tower of unwavering strength and support to my brother. She has been able to seamlessly transcend her skills to being an unfailing caregiver, a mother to two lovely boys, Thandolwenkosi Jr. and Nkanyiso Jr., an executive at a large firm. She has been a binding force between the Hlongwane and the Manyathi families, and a devoted and loving wife to my dear brother. Today, I give a testimony to what God does to the life of an anointed man, a decent man, a faithful gentleman to his wife and to his God. Mpika had aspirations before he passed, which were initially interrupted by COVID. and later interrupted by his intermittent sickness. He had planned to travel to Dubai. He had planned to take the children to Walt Disney in Orlando and to visit his other parents in Indiana in the United States, his second home, his second family, the Davis family. After that, he had a niggling cardio challenge. He's had a severe journey which almost kept him in hospital intermittently since October last year. And then he was admitted again in January for what we had hoped was a small procedure. But then he encountered cardiac arrest at the end of January. Despite all this, there were ominous signs that he was on the mend, and we had hoped that he would fully recover and with a good heart be able to continue with his aspirations, but it was not to be. As I reflect on Mpika's untimely demise, I traveled back in memory lane and reflect on the discussion and exchange we were having in February of 2021. He was reminiscing about two friends we both descended from, his late father, Mr Mpika Manyathi, and my late grandfather, Mr Nkanyiso. How they had become closer than blood brothers, how the one could not live without the other, and how they had become inseparable. We ourselves shared a special bond, much stronger than what friends or siblings experience in a lifetime. I write this note today with melancholic serenity as my Panglossian and sanguine outlook on his earthly prospects dissipate into a distant memory. Mpika transitioned peacefully on a Friday evening in early June, with God having allowed us time to spend with him that day, to pray with him and to summon the heavenly host and the angels to accompany him to the afterlife. God had a different plan to ours, but through his life we learned many valuable lessons of his anointing. Manyathi had a prayer group that prayed for him and interceded on his behalf at all times. Prayer warriors prayed for him, angels stood around him as he transitioned, and there was no struggle for him to attain eternal peace and rest. I wish to thank the team for all their efforts and give God the glory for their divine intercession. For some of us left behind, it is hard to imagine life without his ready and genuine smile and a love that he exuded for ages. I suspect I may have known Mpika for close to 52 years, if not more. I first met Mpika in 1971 at a place called Bremerstop. It's now called Manzini at Mkulami. A short while after we had arrived from KwaZulu-Natal. We lived together at his father's homestead. At the time, he used to adorn an inseam, a small spotted genet loincloth, before he graduated to a leopard loincloth. We used to wear mabeshu, macho, when in the homestead, till probably 1974. But Yenage, he always wore a superior loincloth to us because he was Mpika. After that time, we then had a decent array of Western clothing, and we only wore khakis when going to school. We had very good clothes. We first headed calves and heifers together before we graduated to head the big cows. I particularly remember that stick fighting started when we started heading the big cows and looking for grass a bit further away from home and meeting boys from other homesteads. I excelled in stick fighting, but I was of a slight build. I did not fare that well on the fist fights. Mpika was of better build than me, so he would just step in and he would end my fist fights with one jab. I would just literally see him knock off a fellow on my behalf. So I was always protected from the bullies. And if I met them alone, I would run them off with sticks. That's how we spent primary school afternoons as head boys. One day, as we were heading Kettleback, we saw them parting in the middle, and we stared at a python trying to wrap itself around one of the heifers. We stepped forward, and it unwrapped itself and retreated into the bush. But from that day onwards, we feared a snake. On weekends, we would hunt buck and rabbits. We hunted and shot down birds in the morning and in the afternoon. And the elders would let us in on important conversations of Mkabulo, such as on William Wilberforce, Mungo Park and slavery, and many other consciousness formative discussions. So we became very close from an early age. Me, him, Tlina and Kazu. We slept on the same bed. We eventually moved to our own homestead, but weekends we always got together. Thank you. We lived about 5 minutes away, then tragedy struck. When his father passed away in 1978, Mpika got depressed. And he could not cope, and his academics suffered. Then 2 years later, my grandfather also passed, which just shattered our worlds. These were two men that we had both looked up to and worshipped the ground that they'd walked on. Taken away at a time when we needed their guidance. We persevered, though. We moved away from the village. He moved to Punya, and I moved to Malkat. And we managed through high school, though now at different schools, and then we went to varsity together. I left eSwatini in 1988, and Mpika stayed on for another 6 years. We then went into the corporate world, and Mpika stayed in eSwatini until about 1994. Then at the dawn of democracy, he moved across to South Africa. At some point, we lived together in my house when he came back from a 12 duty in Chicago, when he was working for Deloitte on a management acceleration program, which he spent, I think, between 2002 and 2004. In 2005, we co-founded Mafumbuga Investment Holdings, which I chaired, and he became a director with Kuru Njimile and others. We enjoyed many things in common, such as the sounds of Luther Vandross, especially the Impossible Dream. We enjoyed gospel music. We enjoyed, on weekends, never having to walk alone with our beloved Liverpool. But we always found a great opportunity to disagree on two fundamental things. The first one was Kaiser Chiefs, which he dearly loved. And I used to call them Amamunga, because we are Orlando Pirates. We also disagreed on something that he had encountered and learned in America, something called house music, hip-hop, that he liked to listen to. It was a cocktail of one-dimensional songs with one beat that would go on for 15 minutes. But he endeared himself with my sons because they spent a lot of time. They said, "Look, Uncle Mpika is cool, you don't understand. You are just a jazz guy." I will always remember you, Mr. Manyathi, as a genuine human being, a man with no deceit in him. Like everyone in life, you were disappointed when you found that oft times others you were with did not extol the same virtues as yourself. I know the pain you suffered when you discovered the schemes and lies deceitful people tell with no shame. But you always picked up your baton and you moved on. You were always determined to dust yourself off and to create new adventure. God also blessed you long enough to sit at table with some of them as you made progress in spite of their misdeeds. You marked their betrayal and deceit, you picked the hard lessons, you maintained your integrity as a man and as a businessman until the very end. So before I close, I invoke the words of Khalil Gibran writing in the Prophet, the owl whose night-bound eyes are blind unto the day cannot unveil the mystery of night. If you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide unto the body of life. For life and death are one, even as the river and the sea are one. In the depth of your hopes and desires lies your silent knowledge of the beyond. And like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Trust the dreams, for in them is hidden the gate to eternity. For what is to die but to stand naked in the wind and to melt into the sun? And what is to cease breathing but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when you have reached the mountain top, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then shall you truly dance. As I say farewell to you, brother, I know you will be welcomed by the likes of your beloved daughter Pelele, our brother Motle, and the whole Manyathi clan. Magengosi Babunzingi, your dear father who loved you without reservation, and all of the Dlamenis, your cousins. I know you will start a football club there, Kuramakura, and continue the building blocks of God's church in heaven. I shall miss your wise counsel and genuine interest in me and my family. Lala moxolo sichonza. Nguni. Umakhasane bakwamukele. You ran a good race. You fought the good fight. And you finished the race. Be a good angel that looks after his family. Fare well, my brother.